flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
moment of silence, please. Thank you. Roll call.
Ms. Kimball?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Sanderson?
Here.
Mr. Shad?
Here.
Mr. Williams? Ms. Adair?
Here.
Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, make a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion at this time. I think we should change the order of business of the agenda so we can call executive session during our unfinished business.
It says executive session when needed, so you can
Okay.
call it at any time.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
I'd like to place a motion on the floor for the approval of the agenda for July 25th, 2017.
Make a motion to approve the agenda for July 25th, 2017. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call,
Ms. Kimball?
yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Sanderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shad?
Yes.
Mr. Williams? Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Let the record show that Mr. Williams is at a training this week. We don't have any minutes to approve. The minutes are placed in your packages to read before they'll be placed on the agenda next week. Are there any communications for us, Ms. Tyson? Any requests to adjust the board? We don't have any board recommendations or presentations. Do you have a report, Ms. Tyson?
No, not at this time. I'll have one for you next board meeting, next regular board meeting.
I'm going to start. Okay, Ms. Adair?
I did have questions for Ms. Tyson. At our last board meeting, I asked for some documents, some information, and do you have that, or is that when you're going to, next meeting or whatever, is that when you'll have that ready?
To be honest
Sorry.
with you, Ms. Adair, I don't remember what you requested, so I'll have to check and see. So I don't have anything with me today, but I
Okay.
will look and see what that was.
I do have a couple of questions just for, we were told by you, Madam President, a while ago that we would receive a presentation from the company that did the five-year forecast. One was given to the CEO, I guess, and his team, but nothing was given to the board. And looking over that document, there are terms in there that are, I don't have a clue what they mean, that I'm unfamiliar with, and just some basic questions about their assumptions, and just like to hear from them on the record as to where we stand fiscally and where we stand in the next few years. And looking, in my understanding of what I was looking at, it would appear that we're going to be in fiscal emergency again, or in fiscal distress, if you will, within the next couple of years. And that there will be a need for a renewal of that property tax levy that many of you have heard me speak about across this dais numerous times. And so I would certainly like to hear from the people that prepared that. And my question to whomever why haven't they come and talked to us and so that we could ask them questions?
Actually, it was the treasurer who told us she was going to try to set it up, that they would come and give a presentation to the board, and I think they had agreed to do that. She was working on that, but she can tell you more about what happened.
I don't believe it will happen.
What? Thank you, Ms. Tyson, but what is happening?
Exactly, just that. I sent several emails, I called them, and that the statement was that it was posted out on the website, they had done a presentation, and if you wanted to call and talk to them one-on-one, you could do that, but there won't be a presentation happening for just the board members.
Well, you know where I'm going to go next. Who paid for that? Who paid for, where did the money come from that paid for that, that 5-year forecast that company did for this school district?
And that, those are Youngtown City School District dollars.
I'm sorry?
Youngtown City School District dollars, of course.
Property tax money, and how much did we pay them? Do you call offhand?
I do not recall.
Okay. So I think as a member of this community and an elected member of this school board, I find that just absolutely unacceptable. And I would say that some stronger statement needs to be made to that bunch, whoever that firm was. And they have to be told to come and give us a presentation. I'm no dummy. I am no dummy, okay? But there are some terms on that report that I don't understand what they're talking about, okay? And it would just make sense. This is not to you, Sherry, but to everybody. It would just make absolutely sense for that company to come and tell us in person how they came to their conclusions and explain everything that they've presented on their forecast. And I would hope that this board would be in agreement with that. How do you just blow us off? If we paid for it, how do you blow off this board? How do you blow us off? Okay, so I would, perhaps in executive session, we can talk about some legal way to deal with this, with their refusal to come and share information with this board.
I'm not saying that they're refusing. What I'm saying is that the last time I spoke with them, there were several dates we had popped out that they said that they would come, and then somewhere in between those dates and those emails and those phone calls, it was a determination that they would not be coming. So I don't know if that means they'll come. They would still come in the future. I will certainly contact and ask, but personally,
It is what it is. Thank you. I understand this, Tyson. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
They scheduled a date. They did schedule a date, right?
they had
To present
scheduled,
to us?
they had said they were going to come, and they gave us a date, and then they said that it was a conflicting date because of, at that time, that was when all of the, it's when we were all filing our reports. They were bombarded, and they couldn't get there at that time. So we were supposed to do another one. We just never came to any.
Okay.
I agree with you, Mrs. Adair. I think something needs to happen, because they should have come before this board and given a report.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion from Ms. Tyson? We're going to move on to the board members, 5 minutes. We'll start with Mrs. Adair. You want to go?
Start down there.
Okay.
Get some of
Mr.
that ready.
Hunter?
Yes, Madam President, thank you. More than anything else, our interest as a board ought to be in the educational upliftment of our students. It's what the community wants to see us ensure as their representatives, and it's what they want to see out of their district. That's why I'm so very disappointed by the recent test scores that were made public at the recent Academic Distress Commission meeting. In some regards, scores have gone down under the CEO's watch. And I think this is something that requires some discussion, some reflection, and some investigation. Now, ultimately, it's understood that when you change regimes, that there sometimes is a bit of confusion and difficulty. But for scores to go down when they were already quite low is quite appalling. The Vindicator noted that 90% of students at East High were below level. One student at East High, one, passed at a proficiency level in geometry in the entire school. Those are appalling scores. And that's why it's all the more galling that a recent press release that I read from the district asked the community to come together for a community meeting. Not primarily just talk about the low test scores and how we as a community can come together and make sure our children get the education they deserve, but to talk about mascots, school mascots. Now, I'm not saying school pride isn't important. And I know a lot of people have wonderful memories of their time in our district's high schools, and they have a vested interest in our athletic teams, and that is all important too. But first and foremost is the academics, and I feel this district, this administration, is attempting to sweep its failures under the rug by, in effect, dangling a shiny object in front of the public. And I know for a fact that they're not buying it, because they come to me and tell me how disappointed they are in the test scores from this district, about how they thought that under this new regime, they were supposed to be getting better, and they were simply sold a false bill of goods. Now, if you want to know why this administration isn't receiving the amount of success that people thought, hoped, expected it would, I think it comes down to comments that were made by a member of the public at the recent Academic Distress Commission meeting, where he noted that unless you address the issues that our students are facing day in and day out, issues with violence, issues with home problems, issues with the school to prison pipeline, unless you address those issues, all of what you're talking about is really just window dressing. You have to really get out there and reach out to the hearts and minds of these children and shape their path. So until we as a community demand that that happens, we're going to continue to see these unfortunate test scores. Now, ultimately, when we talk about community engagement, we ought to be focused on creating a safe environment for our students, and that includes dealing with the violence issue that persists in schools like East. We ought to be talking about ensuring we have staff, teachers, administrators who understand where our students are coming from and have the tools to help them get where they need to go. The board's role as advocates for the public ought to be to ensure our children's best interests so that they get the achievement in academics that will get them the bright future we all want for them and know that they deserve. And I'm very disappointed that this administration is more interested in PR and window dressing than dealing with the harsh realities of what's happening in our district and working constructively with the community to address them and turn them around. I'd like to note finally, as the chair of the Finance Committee, of one way the public can get engaged and involved, and that is to attend our upcoming Finance Committee meeting for this month on Monday, July 31st at 6 p.m. I hope to see members of the public there and engaged. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. What time is your meeting?
6 p.m. Monday, July 31st.
Mr. Shad?
I just want to talk about how you can make numbers look any kind of way you want them to look. It was noted in the Vindicator that the amount of kids sent home for disciplinary action that fell by 43%. But we don't know the number of kids that were referred for disciplinary action, and we don't know if that number has went down. Those are the things that are most important to me, especially when we talk about the CEO wanting to meet with the board to come to some agreement on how we can go together, how we can join together and lead this district. When we've been asking them critical questions about the state of the district, we've gotten no answers to those questions. When we ask critical questions about the plan for the future of this district, we've been given no answers. When the commission made a meeting that pretty much was in line with the meeting that we asked the commission for to address certain issues with the public, they had that meeting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And to piggyback off of what Mr. Hunter said, the district will have a meeting about mascots at 7 p.m. in the evening. Does anyone see a problem with that? The other piece there is that we've asked legitimate questions. We've been framed in the media or what have you as being antagonists to Mr. Mohab's plan. But what we asked were just questions related to, hey, why is it that you have almost $1 million in legal fees? Would you please explain that to us? We asked questions that, hey, you had a plan that was backed and vetted by the commission that had benchmarks throughout the year in which you were to give information, and you did not do that. For us to operate this district and say, we're going to have a final report at the end of the year after school is over and done with and say, these are the problems. Who does that? There's no program that looks at everything at one endpoint when there could be nothing done to repair that year. Now, what if Mr. Mohab would have actually came forth and said, this was the results of this particular test score when they came in. This was the results of this benchmark that I put in place that I want to review quarterly or bi-monthly or every month ongoingly. And what if he would have stepped forth and said those things then to clean up the issues that were going on with this, not necessarily the reporting, but the outcomes of students. Everything cannot be solved at 20 West Wood Street behind the curtain, behind the community's back. It can't be. We've seen many hires that have taken place in this district that have not gone through the proper labor laws as far as jobs being posted, people being interviewed for those jobs. And we've seen no reaction from any community group or the media who is supposed to represent the people with its free press to say, maybe there is a potential injustice here. It hasn't happened. There's been no critical questioning of what is the outcomes of any of the district strategies that have come forth until he, Mr. Mohab, has put in place, well, it's time for me to report on these things. No one besides this board has asked, and I won't say besides this board, but consistently we've asked the questions of what are the critical things that we need to know in this district when we are going to when this district is going to transition from leadership. Even Mr. Mohab felt that there was a need for a meeting to do such. Since that notice that he put out for that meeting, he has not honored the meeting. We were supposed to have a meeting in the second week of July. I don't know what week it is. Is it the third week of July now? It hasn't happened. The fourth week of July, it hasn't happened. There's been several questions that we've asked of him. In the way that he asked us to ask those questions, he has not responded to those questions. Not at one. And even from the last meeting he had with the commission to express the things that he felt was happening with the district, the scores that he presented to the district that were reported on by our local media, why is there nothing in print? Nothing in print that was given to anybody who couldn't make it. Nothing in print that was available for anybody to be able to scrutinize or even review these district scores with past years. Why isn't this information on the website? Why is this person saying that he's a data-driven individual when he is sought not to give us any data in order to judge the growth of this district? But when we say something about that, we are the antagonists. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Sanderson.
Yes, I also would like to discuss the communication with our CEO, Richard Mohab, as well. It was probably about a few weeks ago that we received copies of an email that he stated that he would not speak to us, he would not communicate with the board members, that he would address the board president. All questions and answers would go through the board president. But last week, I received a phone call, a voicemail message from Mr. Mohab, where he's questioning some information concerning board business. I emailed him and told him anything he needs to ask me, he needs to address me through email. So I want to keep a record of what he's asking and what he's talking about. And I'll try to get back to him in 10 business days like he told us. He went on to say, to question about legal services, like us inquiring about additional legal services and law firms that that we may be contacting. And recently, he requested that we get email addresses for the school district. Some board members questioned that because they felt like, well, you know, this is a way of him tracking our emails and looking at what we're doing. But that's fine, because I have nothing illegal to say or to write about or to discuss. But based on his email to me, lets me know that he's reading our board emails, going into our emails. And so that just lets me know that he has a little bit too much time on his hands. I would like for him to focus on those scores, especially at East, where we had one student that passed geometry. Historically, that has never happened. That's an all-time low for our school district. Never has happened. I would also like him to concentrate on that investigation piece that the Vindicator conducted with that kickback money scheme from Chicago. I would like him to concentrate on that. And let the board conduct its own business and focus on the academics of the school district. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Ralston. Ms. Xavier?
Madam President and fellow board members, I'm going to take time to do a personal, to deal with a personal issue, something that I don't usually do at board meetings, but I'm going to take this time to do it. And it has to do with what I think has been going on between me and the Vindicator. And so I'll read to you, with the 5 minutes that I have, my response to managing editor of the Vindicator. Mark, thank you for the quick response to my email concerning the incorrect headline which appeared in the July 11, 2017, 10:55 p.m. edition of Vindy.com. I stopped subscribing to your paper more than a year ago, primarily because of the very thing I complained to you about, one-sided and apparent incorrect reporting. I do, however, purchase your paper from time to time when I receive calls or emails from some of my neighbors and friends who still do subscribe. I also received a text from an anonymous person which contained the article written by a person who obviously knew what was printed was incorrect, according to you, the night manager. I knew that the headline in question had been changed when I purchased and read your paper that morning. Not only was my name omitted from the morning edition, but the words "proposal to sue Mohib" over his authority in quotations were also removed. The resolution did not contain any language about suing anyone. Where did that come from? By the way, what's wrong with that night editor? Not able to read with understanding? So he or she makes up stuff, I guess. Since the headline appeared, I've received numerous calls and text messages about that article. Most of the calls had to do with the Vindy.com headline. These people don't purchase your paper like I do sometimes, but they do read your paper online only, so they were not aware of the later corrected headline. These are responses to the statements that he made in the email he sent me. As the board looks to yet another legal challenge in quotations, I didn't include the entire quote. Where did you get that information from? We have decided to join the OSBA Legal Defense Fund, costing $250 per year for membership. That organization will provide legal advice on issues facing in-state school boards. To date, the board has not joined that organization because Mohib has declined to approve the expenditure. You would know that had your reporter presented that information to you for publication in your paper. Former Superintendent Stolla's last official duty on Mohib's order came to the first July meeting and read a letter from Mohib to the board expressing his disapproval of the expense. The last treasurer's financial detail report presented to the board indicated that as of May 31st, 2017, the district has paid $532,529.33 in legal fees, more than $500,000. CEO Mohip has hired 2 law firms, Zidian, who works for Innis and something or other, and Baker Hostetler. Not sure of the last name, but you can get that info with the Freedom of Information Act request, something that the board now has to do to get information. At the last board meeting, I asked Treasurer Tyson for a breakdown of that total. Attorney Roberts, the board's attorney, has never billed the district that much, even with the filing of the case in Columbus and defending Board President Kimball's selection of Dr. Carol Staten as a member of the current Academic Distress Commission. The CEO, not the board, has spent this outrageous sum on legal fees. Check it out. I agree those expenditures, legal fees by CEO Mohip, have not helped the students. None of his expenditures to date have gone into the classroom. Point 2, FYI, several years ago, long before I was elected, our district was identified as a Title I district, and as a result, all our children received free breakfast and lunch during the regular school year. I'm not sure what you are asking about helping the parents, please clarify. That one about our efforts should be directed toward helping and feeding the young children in our district, as opposed to us board members on a power struggle, in a power fight, okay? My job as an elected representative of this city is not to turn a blind eye to problems brought to my attention by teachers, parents, or students. I must question and expect a reasonable answer or explanation to those questions. For example, last year, parents contacted me about their daughter being bullied at East. CEO, superintendent, and principal refused to correct this problem in spite of my bringing these concerns to their attention and reminding them that board policy is clear about steps that must be taken to address and correct the bullying problem. Nothing was done by the CEO or at that time by Superintendent Stolen. CEO Mohip's response was that this problem occurred before his arrival, so he wouldn't deal with it. The parent removed the student from East. Point 3, the district has a long-standing problem with our special education population. I brought this issue to the attention of Superintendent Hathorn, Stola, and now Mohip. They did not address it. So I called the state and the NAACP. And as a result, the state came in last March 2016, conducted an investigation, and found that we are out of compliance on a number of legal requirements for special ed students. Actually, the state continues to be in the district and has determined that all special ed staff must receive training, including the director, who Mohip recently gave a substantial raise and a promotion. Check it out. I continue to have to remind folks that the state has been in charge of academics in our district since 2010. Your paper even reported that a former state superintendent held the commission, the superintendent, and the board responsible for the ongoing poor academic performance of the students in this district. But it seems that the only group held accountable for this unfortunate situation is the board. Thank you very much, Superintendent Hathorn. Check it out. I did not vote for the employment of interim Superintendent Stolen. I do not know anything about his rubber stamping questionable hires for outrageous salaries. That's in quotations. That's what he sent to me. If you were referring to Ron King, pull the minutes of the meeting held at Cheney, where the debate and the vote took place. I once again was the sole voice who voted no. I do not understand your characterization of my involvement on the board as being passionate. Passion has nothing to do with it. I'm a long-standing, highly educated, knowledgeable elected member of this board and community. I have been a teacher in this district and others, public and charter. I have witnessed the good, the bad, and the ugly in education and have attempted to bring that information to my fellow board members and the last 3 superintendents, Webb, Hathorn, Stolla, and now CEO Mohib, in hopes of helping to correct the problems that need to be fixed and to continue with the things that have actually worked. I have a fiduciary responsibility as an elected member to monitor how and why the taxpayers' monies are being spent and to monitor the academic performance of the city's children. These children, my children, your children, deserve better. They deserve the best that money can buy. My neighbors and friends deserve to have their tax dollars effectively used to educate our children and not to be wasted on excessive salaries that have yet to show a positive impact on academics. Passion, I think not, just knowledge, skills and ability, and good common sense. How much time?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Because you're actually up.
My-
You're actually up, so he's giving you some.
He's giving me some time. All right, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Please clarify passionate rebuke or lawsuit aimed at your self-appointed guy. I don't know what the heck this editor was talking about. Who and what are you talking about? Point 8, your response contained this remark. Your mind is closed. Where did you get that from? How do you know? You have yet to sit down with me or other board members like you have with Mohib and talk to me about my closed mind. You have arbitrarily jumped to some whack conclusion about what I'm thinking with a closed mind. Did you know that soon after Mohib and Overson arrived, I requested and met with both of them and shared data with them that have been compiled and presented by previous academic fiscal commissions and the performance audit reports compiled by state auditor in an effort to help them. No need to reinvent the wheel. Help them save time and to get a better picture of the inner workings of this district. These were not my reports, but state-generated reports that previous academic distress commissions and I have used to direct inquiries over the years. They both chose to ignore me. Surprise! Guess what Mohib has talked about on TV interviews and at ADC commission meetings? Budgets, staff attendance, special ed. I have made inquiries about these issues and have not been given any responses or answers. Let me see, where am I? My inquiries into staff attendance. My ongoing question about a staffing plan. Without one, how do you prepare a legitimate budget? A spending plan or a budget, detailed financial reports, organizational charts. Who answers to whom? Curriculum, not developed according to policy. I have brought these concerns numerous times to the superintendent, beginning with Webb, Hathorn, Stolla, and now Mohib. Webb and Stolla did nothing. Hathorn did address some, but Mohib is yet to provide answers, but he did share some information with the commission. The board does not think that we are superior, but please understand that in the past, the board hired a superintendent to guide the academics of the district and a treasurer to account for the funds coming into and out of the district. In other words, the board is the boss. Like you can hire and fire these folks. Please explain to me how a business can efficiently and effectively operate without receiving regular reports or information on the operations in a district. Remember, after a number of years of Mohib, not the board, and Mohib has not improved the district's academic standing, the board will be replaced and a new one will be appointed by the mayor. What sense does that make? Especially if we, the board, have no input and have not been asked for recommendations/advice from the CEO. Board concerns are not about local control and common sense, not power. In this country, our votes are supposed to count for something, the will of the people. Did you know that MOHIP has instructed all staff not to talk to the board? They're afraid to talk to us. Why? They have not been allowed to attend any board meetings. Take a look, folks. Not one board meeting. Talk about collaboration and communication. CEO MOHIP and I were meeting on a somewhat regular basis, but for some reason that stopped. He then stated publicly that I wouldn't meet with him. I have emails to verify my responses to him through his secretary, who wrote that he would need to change our meetings. I would respond, yes, by all means, I want to reschedule. Give me a date and time. No meetings have been rescheduled as of this date. Take over, how much time?
That's 10 minutes, just stay there.
All right, I've got at least another 4 or 5, so if I'm over time, Madam President.
Is it dealing with the district or your personal?
It's some of the same stuff. It's some of the
If
same.
it's dealing with the district, I'll give you a few minutes of mine. If it's dealing with the district, but not that newspaper stuff, I'll give.
Let me see. Yeah, okay. I'll stop here. I think everybody gets the gist of it. The issues here have to do with, the basic issue is about what's been printed in the Vindicator about me. And I'm taking this opportunity in front of the few folks that chose to come to the meeting today to express my discontent with the lies that have been printed in that paper about me. And one of my last comments was that they will print a retraction, they will stop this slander. I consider it a conspiracy that they're operating under, and I want it to stop. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Aguirre. Mr. Murphy?
No, I don't.
Well, as board president, I'm very disappointed for a number of reasons with Mr. Mohib. And the first reason is that he stated that he wanted to have a board retreat and mediation with the board to bring the board and the leadership back together to communicate, on one level, and that never happened. Now, he stated in the first email that he sent that he would need 2 days. So, and he would not do it unless every board member agreed to attend, and we all did, okay? Then after we agreed to attend, I asked him to please start these sessions at 5 o'clock p.m. because we have board members that work, and they can't get here before that time. After that, his response was that he would need 1 full day. Well, if I'm telling you that board members work and they can't come till after 5, then you know they can't give you 1 full day unless they take off from their jobs. And we don't expect board members that are not salaried from this district to take off from their jobs to come to a session for Mr. Mohib. And I would hope that he would give us the days that he said he would at the times that we need to have this, if he honestly wants to bring back communication with the board and allow the folks to be here, the leadership that he directed not to come. Frankly, I think that if he wants to open that communication, all he has to do is redirect those leadership, people of leadership to come back to the meetings and give reports as they've done in the past. And then secondly, to understand the little that we understand about the 5-year forecast, and knowing that this board is the only people, these 7 board members elected by the community that are able to place a levy on the ballot, and you hiring all of these folks at these high salaries that we honestly don't even know what they do, and is there a job description, because most of these positions are being created, so we don't even know what the job description is and if these people qualify for what they're doing. But the fact is, then you turn around and you want to have a community meeting, not about the poor scores, not about the poor scores in academics that we're concerned about for our children, but about mascots. And that's very upsetting, is because I know about the old East Golden Bears. I have family members that were Golden Bears, and they were upset when this transition took place, but they could care less now. Okay, and this East Panthers, this was something that was voted on by the students, past students and present students. The students chose the colors, they chose the names, and they chose the mascot. So to me, it would be a concern of pleasing the students that are in the district, not old people or mid-aged people who are out there in the community who wants the Golden Bears to reappear. Nothing having to do with education. I would think they would be more concerned about education and academic and test scores than having a meeting on a mascot. And the thing with that is, even if he decides to change this, and this is how things usually happen, the board is told nothing, and then it's said that it'll never happen or it's not going to happen, and then the next day, the changes are made. And so with those changes that will happen, we'll need funding to change the uniforms. Now, in the past, we were told to bring a sports team back to Cheney. It would be close to $700,000 maybe for all the uniforms and equipment and all that. So are we now going to spend funding that we don't have on changing a mascot at a time like this? I've never been a board member that said that I wouldn't vote for a levy and that I wouldn't place a levy on the ballot because my concern is about the children. But with Mr. Mohib not consulting the board about any of these changes, I, for the first time, probably would vote not to place a levy on the ballot and let the state and Mr. Mohib figure out where to get that funding. Now, my mind might be able to be changed later on as I see what happens, but if, in fact, this mascot is changed at a time like this, and we use funding for something like this when we need funding, when we're lacking funding, when we're going to be in financial distress, even with the levy being passed, I will vote not to place a levy on the ballot. Because our children should come first, and it's not who the mascot is or what the mascot is or what color the mascot wears or the team wears. It's about our academics and our grades. Thank you.
Madam President, if I may, very briefly, I just wanted to address the issue of the retreat. Unfortunately, we've all tried to correspond with the CEO about making that retreat happen. One of those primary goals behind the retreat is professional development. I think we should just come together as a group and ensure that that professional development happens, and we should regroup as a board to address these new challenges and make that happen ourselves. We've tried to communicate with the CEO. I've asked questions about this retreat. I reiterated my questions a month later and still didn't get any answers. Just because the CEO wants to have us hang on a line doesn't mean that we can't go and make that professional development happen for ourselves. So I think that's what we should do, and we should get together as a board and make that happen. Thank you.
I think that's a good idea, and I think the board should have a retreat. But if we want to work with this CEO, then I think that we still need to have that other mediation project, meeting, program, whatever he wants to call it, so that we can open the lines of communication as well. That's my feeling. So I don't see anything wrong with having both. But again, he needs to agree, and I've told him that these board members work, and they can't be here for one full day. So he needs to go back to his original offer with the 2 sessions, and we would ask that he start those sessions at 5:00 p.m. to allow the board members to be here. It's a rush, as you can see. Mr. Shad comes in late, even for these summer hours, because the man works, and folks have to work, but we should still be able to have a retreat or this mediation session that he would like to have if he honestly wants to open the lines of communication with this board. Because again, he's going to need this board for certain things. And this is not a threat that, if you don't do certain things, we won't place a levy on the ballot. But he should think about us, not only in the time of need, but through a regular day when he's creating all these positions and having meetings with other groups, but refuses to have a meeting with the board. Well, yeah, we did offer weekends, but I've heard nothing from that, so maybe he's busy on the weekends. I don't know. Because we've heard nothing. So if you have nothing, you know nothing. Is there any unfinished business?
Yes, Madam President. There's 2 sheets each. This is I'm going to bring forth a resolution. This is in reference to a couple of requests from board members about legal opinions and a second legal opinion. Also, I personally spoke to our our attorney about wanting a second legal opinion. At this time, I move to accept the resolution, appointing Smith Peters Galeo Company LPA to provide legal services to the Board of Education of the city, Youngstown City School District. Have a second?
Second.
Let's open up for discussion.
Yes, ma'am. I'll read that. I'll read the body of it for the public. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of Youngstown City School District, that the law firm of Smith Peters Galeo Company LPA firm is hereby appointed to provide legal services on behalf of the board on an as-needed basis as requested by the board. Said legal services are to consist of general legal counsel and advice, preparation of documents related to such counsel and representation of the board at proceedings with respect to any authorized school purpose. Be it further resolved in rendering such services as an independent contractor and an attorney-client relationship, the firm shall not exercise any administrative discretion on behalf of the board in the formulation of public policy, expenditure of public funds, enforcement of laws, rules, and regulations of the state and any county, cities, or of this board, or execution of public trust. The provisions of the services may be terminated at any time by the board or the firm upon providing written notice to the other end. Be it further resolved that for such legal services to form, the firm shall be paid reasonable fees as approved by the treasurer and shall be reimbursed for the actual out-of-pocket expenses, including but not limited to travel and document reproduction costs incurred in rendering such legal services from funds appropriated or that may be appropriated by the board from time to time for such purposes. And be it further resolved that it hereby found and determined that all formal action of the board concerning and or relating to the adoption of this resolution was taken in an open meeting of this board, and that all deliberations of this board and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public and in compliance with all legal requirements, including section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code.
All right. Where can I start? With this, all you did was bring one law firm in front of us and expect us to hire him. We just got on this CEO for the last 2 months for bringing people in front of, just hiring people, not interviewing other people for the job. So me, myself, I can't vote for this law firm when I haven't heard from any other law firms. I'm not going to just hire the first one I hear from.
And I can respect that.
All right.
The point is that I would say is that we've been talking for a long time, and
But you only brought one in front of us.
Excuse me.
We ordered one.
Point of order. At this time, no other board members have come up with an idea of getting other firms in or brought any firms in up until this point. Now, I don't have a problem with that, but you can also have a chance to, well, we had a chance to speak to attorneys, and we have spoken to attorneys about their services. And any question that you may have, that could have been taken care of.
I'd just like to see more than one law firm.
Are you willing to bring in some more firms?
Bring in whoever you want, but I'm not voting for the first one you bring in. So I'll be voting no.
Because this is the problem. Meeting after meeting, I'm hearing, I want a legal opinion, I want a second opinion, but nothing's being
I'm
done.
not going to hire the first person I look at.
Okay.
I don't
And like I said, where I'm coming back to you is, I would appreciate it so we don't keep going spinning the same wheel, that someone else step up to the plate and start looking for other firms and bring them in for a presentation, and then you can vote. But up until this point, no one's done anything.
Well, you took the initiative. I thought you'd bring more than one law firm.
If I may.
Yes.
Did you not say that you did talk to several firms?
Yes, I
This
did.
one was willing to come without billing us.
Yes.
Would you explain that?
Yes, absolutely. I talked to probably about 4 to 5 firms outside of this area. I thought that was a good idea. One thing is cost. We know right now Mr. Mohib has decided that he's not going to pay for our legal defense, any further fees that we might incur. This one firm decided that they will definitely come, they will speak to us. They're not charging us per hour like the other firms wanted to do. In addition to that, we have the issue of, even if we do get a firm, that he's still stating that he's not going to pay for that firm. And we got somebody that's willing to support us and fight for us regardless of that. So I think that's most important. You're the client. Whatever you want that attorney to do, that's what that attorney is supposed to do. So I've checked. I went and checked their record. I did the research. I have spoken to Madam President concerning what I wanted to do. And I'm the only board member that found firms to come in. And if there was question of their legitimacy or what their capability of doing, I think that should have been asked and answered like an executive session.
Madam President, if I may. First and foremost, I'd like to commend Ms. Anderson for taking the initiative to make this happen, for reaching out to law firms to review them, to bring a firm before this board so that we could have a reasoned discussion about our legal representation. I'd like to put this in the most respectful way possible. I think it's unfortunate to then respond with that initiative that someone else has taken by saying, well, why didn't you do this, why didn't you do that? We are a body of 7 people. And I think if there's anyone that has any issues with initiatives taken by board members, that we should be able to work together collaboratively to bring together as a whole something that's going to better suit us as a body. It's almost at this stage, after we've reviewed the firm and we've had an opportunity to talk to them and ask them questions, and to wait to now and say, well, you could have brought other firms. I think that's a little bit obstructionist, and I think you could have brought other firms. If you have a problem with it, you could have suggested other firms. You could have called 10 other firms. You could have gotten in touch with them. Ms. Anderson's contacted multiple firms. This particular firm, I have to say, I've looked into their background. We've all had a discussion with them and had an opportunity to ask them questions. I feel comfortable with their credentials. I feel comfortable with their ability to move us forward in the legal issues we have. And this resolution says on an as-needed basis. So the board can call on them as needed. If the board finds their opinion useful, it can call upon them. If it no longer finds them useful, it can decide not to call upon them. And I think that's the kind of relationship you ought to have at this point. First and foremost, we are facing some serious issues. We have an administration that is wresting local control away from this district and using about $1 million of legal fees to do it. And we're going to sit here twiddling our thumbs, saying to other members who've taken the legwork and the initiative to try to find a way to fight it, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. We are going to end up fighting each other while the CEO and the state and all the people trying to take over this district and cheat our kids are fighting us. And that's not the way we ought to work. Thank you, Madam President.
Well, when I'm called for about a special meeting, and I'm asked if I'm available, and I say I'm on vacation, and then the next day there's a special meeting, is that letting everybody involved in the decision?
I'm not sure what that has to do with this issue, this resolution.
This was probably going to be brought up at that meeting, I would bet.
In response, this was during executive session. A couple members actually wanted me to call a special meeting that Friday concerning the firm. And so Tuesday, if you remember, the Academic Distress Commission had met. So I think that it would have been a conflict if we would have set it on a Tuesday while they're having their meeting. We already have enough issues going on. So, and it was on the agenda, and it was sent out to everyone of what was supposed to be on that meeting.
So what happened at the meeting?
That meeting was canceled. So that's why this is going under unfinished business.
So the meeting took place, but there wasn't enough people.
Well,
No.
no meeting, did they?
There was no meeting because we had
I'm
no
sorry.
here.
I'm sorry, I'm talking it.
Go ahead, Ms. Aguirre.
The meeting, we did not have a quorum, so it was canceled.
Anybody else?
I'll make a statement. I am, I'm in agreement with the fact, and like I've said many times, that in the training that I received in Columbus over the years, at state conferences, there have been many law firms that were represented there. that conducted the training. And the one thing that stuck in my mind about this issue we're talking about today is that boards, as is the case with CEO Mohib, should not have just one attorney or one firm to represent them. One firm can't be all things to all people. So I am of a mind that we do need to move on this, and if at some point somebody has another group, another law firm that they feel we could work with as well, heck, he's got, Mohib has Ennis and whoever, with Attorney Zidian, and the Baker Hofstetler Group is a national law firm. I'm probably correct in estimating that their billable hours are somewhere between $500 and $700 an hour. Okay, so right at this point, I have no problem with getting another law firm, and then again, we can. Anybody else who wants to pursue this, I think bring in another group, let them talk to us. But again, Ms. Anderson made it clear to me that this group, among all the groups that she contacted, did not bill us for coming here at our last meeting. They came and gave us a presentation, and I was pretty well pleased and impressed with what I saw. So I'm perfectly willing to go ahead with this move. Thank you, Madam President.
My concerns lie with when we had our conversation with the law firm. I just asked simple questions to what would you have done differently? And they didn't give me an answer that they would have did anything differently. So therefore, I can't see the strength of having another law firm who hasn't come up with a unique way to defend us in any of the current lawsuits that we have.
Madam President.
Mr. Sandra, I'm sorry, Mr. Hunter.
Yes, and I recall that conversation, and they were referring to the current lawsuit in Columbus that we're engaged in. However, I think Ms. Adair's point is a quite salient one. Different firms for different purposes. One of the things that we're getting beat up on now is the day-to-day usurpation of power on the part of the CEO, where he is taking over powers that HB 70 does not even grant him. And unfortunately, present representation has not addressed that. I feel confident that this firm can address that, and since this is on an as-needed basis, we can have them as an as-needed basis to address these issues so that we can successfully handle that aspect of the legal package of issues that we're facing as a board. Thank you, Madam President.
I'm looking at section 3 here, this third paragraph that says, be it further resolved that for such legal services, the firm shall be paid reasonable fees as approved by the treasurer. Okay, right there, the treasurer, I don't think can approve anything, and we're kind of placing her in a spot that she doesn't need to be placed in. I'm sorry, what did you say, Shir?
That you would have to take my title out of there.
Right, so we can't have her.
You can change that.
Okay, in there. Then secondly, I want to say that as a full board, we've always expected and looked for at least 3 firms for anything, and when this district didn't do that, we nailed the hammer on them because, or hammered the nail in them, however you want to say it, because we felt that there should be at least 3 companies or 3 of anything that we had a chance to look over and to speak with before we did any hiring. So since there are board members that I feel that way as well, I'm not going to lie to you, that would like that, rather than to vote on this today, especially with this Senate, and maybe not be able to have these folks, I would like to table this, and then, since this was your initiative, it is your job to bring in those people, to bring in some other law firms for us at least to be able to interview. But it's up to you. If you want to leave it here today and have it voted on, that would be up to you. I would suggest this table and bring in other law firms and allow the board members to interview them as well, and then bring this back to the table.
In response, Madam President, it's not my job, but it is my duty to make sure that this district and these children are protected and that our rights are protected. And that with true diligence, I did do the research of other firms as well. I welcome any of my board members that's sitting right here to do the same, to contact maybe 4 to 5 different firms, speak with them personally, bring in their material, have them come do presentations. If any of them are willing to do that, and you can say it today, I'm more than fine with that. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, and not, it's not necessarily your job, but it was your idea. And so what I'm saying, if this is your idea and this is initiative that you wanted to bring forward, then you need to bring other folks. That's what I'm saying. But if you want to keep it for a vote today, we can do that. I would suggest it is tabled, and I'm not going to ask for it to be tabled. I'm going to just suggest it is tabled and then leave it up to you.
Madam President.
Ms. Hayden?
I'll add a couple other comments. Desperate times require desperate measures, and I think we are in a desperate situation. And yes, we have hammered other folks for not bringing in three bids for work that we want to hire out for. But my question then is, are we willing to pay? Are we willing to pay a firm to come in and give us a presentation? That firm, as I stated, and I guess Ms. Sanderson can clarify this, they understood they were coming to present to us without pay. And then, of course, the idea of, and I was uncomfortable with it. I didn't say anything, but I was uncomfortable with the fact that we were asking legal opinions to a law firm that we had not contracted with, and that we had what's the word? We really truly didn't have a relationship with yet. And so the fact that they perhaps did not answer some questions as straightforward as some of us would have liked, I don't think that it was fair to them for us to have even been asking those kinds of questions. The issues at hand should have been, as some of the questions that some of us asked, first of all, what's it going to cost us? It's always my issue. And then second of all, what we talked about was if the CEO, if he said no to $250, what's he going to say to your $340 an hour, billable hours? And what would you do? And their response to me was quite satisfactory, okay? They were willing to come on board anyways. And so, and they are an education law firm. And so they have dealt with perhaps not the kinds of issues that are involved with the HB 70 amendment because it's new. All of this, I've been told by a number of legal minds that this is new law that requires, all of this needs to be handled and settled in court because this is new. We have no precedents. There's nothing on the books to address the issues that we've been facing. So we have, to ask them questions about this, that, and the other, I think was inappropriate. But be that as it may, desperate times require desperate measures. We do, in fact, need to go ahead with using these folks. And if they're and we can always bring in two other organizations if we're willing to pay. If we're willing to pay for their time. And I'd like to hear from everybody about that. If we're willing to pay for them to come here and give us a presentation and to drive here, that's travel, and then to give us the presentation, maybe an hour, okay? If we're willing to do that, then we can always do that. And this resolution says that we can end our relationship whenever. So, in that sense, I think we've drug our rear ends long enough on some of these issues, and it's time for us to get off the crap and get off the pot. Excuse my verbiage. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President, thank you. I'm going to be bluntly honest and real with everyone on this board and with the public. What is happening right now is that the CEO is attempting to impose a superintendent on this district, has already imposed an interim superintendent on this district with no real say from the board, and is engaging in a series of overreaches that are only going to increase with time. The issue of the superintendent is due to be discussed tomorrow at a scheduled special meeting. So you're actually suggesting that in the absence of reliable legal representation to deal with that issue, we are going to engage in an entire process to review and find multiple law firms at our expense, just to review them, while time passes on this intensely sensitive issue of a superintendent being imposed on the district without any say from the board. And what I say to that is, this is some of the same thumb twiddling that got us in the position we're in right now. Because you know exactly what's going to result from that. You're going to wake up one morning and read the newspaper just like everyone else what MOHIP has decided without our involvement. And I hope that our present representation will understand this, because I have been in legal practice myself. You know, it is not a personal thing, but I do not have confidence in our present legal representation to take us through those issues. The issue of our court case is one thing, but the issue of the day-to-day issues that we face in terms of clarifying what exact powers HB 70 gives to the CEO, that is another thing altogether. And I think the CEO has been taking great advantage of that and taking great advantage of the disarray amongst board members and their inability to get a sense of clarity on which direction the board wants to take. So twiddle your thumbs some more if you want to. We all know what the result of that is going to be, and it's going to result in our children being cheated because the representatives of the public are going to be increasingly shut out of the process of ensuring that they get the education they deserve. I think we need to vote on this now so board members show where they stand on this issue and that they are compelled in front of the public to be responsible for the results of their thumb twiddling. Thank you, Madam President.
I'd like to make a comment on this. Cost has been brought up. Cost to come in to pretty much have a consultation to see if we want a potential law firm. What about the cost when they have to actually do something? We don't know if those people are going to get paid or not. I think the cost that, have them come on in, and build a district. We don't know if they're going to get paid or not. Even if we hire them and they do work for us, we don't know if they're going to get paid or not. I think the law, to just say, well, because they came in for a free consultation, that's great, they came in for a free consultation, but there's still going to be things that they're going to bill for. And it was news to me, that meeting. There was no prior conversation at a board meeting where we discussed getting more legal assistance. Not one time. And from what I can see is that no one seems to be able to give us anything more. Now, I think we could probably demand more from who currently represents us. But for us to say that we need to keep in line with the amount of how many attorneys the superintendent, the CEO has, I don't know if that's the case. We just need to be extremely effective with what we have. Because I can't see on the other side where this law firm or other law firms are going to do anything different.
Just to further explain, I heard some questions being raised. As far as the resolution is something that can be amended, because I did speak to the attorneys, and some districts prefer the word treasurer, some have superintendent, and some have board. Right now, who signs for it is our treasurer. So that's a matter of just amending that resolution. Secondly, they did address the issues of cost and if they're not paid or what they plan on doing. They're planning on going after MOHIP. I have no problem with it. That's what they're supposed to do. In addition to that, I have mentioned this. I have mentioned this in executive session to the face of our current attorney, that I want a second opinion. And he said, that's fine, that's okay. And so here it is. I talked to Madam President about contacting some firms and having them come in and speak to us, and that's exactly what I did.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Sherry?
Ms. Kimball,
No.
Mr. Murphy,
No.
It has to be amended. It has to be amended. There needs
Yes.
to be a motion to amend.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Take that word out and replace it. you know.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to remove the word treasurer from the third paragraph and replace with board.
I'll second that, Madam President.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Roll call?
Ms. Kimball,
No.
Mr. Murphy,
No.
Ms. Sanderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shad,
No.
Mr. Williams, Ms. Adair,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter.
Yes.
So there are 3 yes and 3 no, so the motion does not pass.
Madam President, yes, I will bring it up at a later time.
Is there any new business? Say you have some new business that you want to.
Always. You always have something to say. This has to do with, my new business, I guess, is kind of old business where, old and new business, about the use of our funds to buy pizza to the tune of about $3,000. The amount of money that's being paid to the education, now being paid to the Education Service Center, almost $2 million, and on and on and on. Of course, I already mentioned the $500,000 for legal fees, and so we have, we are just not getting, in my opinion, our money's worth. I'd like to know what the deal is on why are we paying money to universities. There's 4 on this last report: St. Louis University, Kent State, Eastern Michigan, and Ohio State. Are we paying tuition for somebody's to attend college? And there's an overtime, more than $500,000 in overtime. And I guess where I am is, I guess I'm back to where we started when we first opened our meeting, that this money is just a big issue. It's spending money. For 1 month, we spent over $7 million in 1 month. In 1 month. And to what end? But then some of this stuff is just absolutely beyond reasonable, okay? That $800 for coffee. And then, of course, the pizza, that really, I just, $3,000 for pizza? Who the heck is eating that much pizza? And so, because we have it, we're going to spend it. And so, Madam President, I just feel that, in terms of new business, this is old stuff. Okay, it's old stuff, but it's new, and I'm going to keep bringing it up because I think we deserve an explanation and a reason for why this money is just being spent up hither and yon. Travel expenses for travel, $147,000 for people that drive from one side of town to the other. Okay, or for people that drive from home to work, or whatever that's for, $145,000 in travel expenses. Really? Okay, and that we are paying people who are making $120,000, $130,000, $110,000, $11,000. They're getting stipends. They're getting stipends for what? Now, where I worked before, I didn't make that kind of money. Okay, that money when I traveled, it had to come out of my pocket. Okay, if I was going to get some professional development, when I went back to college, I had to pay that tuition. My employer did not pay that. Okay, That was an expense that I had to incur if I wanted that job and if I wanted to better myself. But when you look at these reports, I mean, this is just absolutely outrageous. And is there any wonder that we're going to be in fiscal deficit in 2 years? I have to look back through here. In 2 years, and then they're going to be looking for another levy, a renewal levy. You guys have heard me, okay? You know, I get the senior exemption. You didn't hear that from me, okay? You didn't hear that from me. I still pay an arm and a leg for my property taxes. $200 and some odd cents every, whatever it is, okay? And the majority of that goes to this school district. And for what? For what? When our kids get these kinds of god-awful test results on the state test. So, Madam President, I think that we, in terms of new business and old business, we have to continue to insist that we get some reports on the operations in our district, especially the financial operations, because that's one of the last things that we still have some control over. And I did ask at our previous meeting about budget. I see that there is, that Mr. Slyman, Mr. Slyman, that's the husband, okay, that he is working on a budget. He is, okay, and which is what I'm used to, okay, that's the way I'm used to working. And so we will know what's budgeted for this department and how much money is budgeted here, there, and the other. And if people are spending within their budgeted amounts of money, or if they're overspending or not. And so I just, in terms of new business, Madam President, I just feel that we have to continue to insist on getting reports face to face so that I and you can ask questions of the people that are working in this district and supposed to be improving the academic condition of our students. Thank you, Madam President.
Ms. Kimball, if I could just say something here to Ms. Adair. When you talk about the money that's spent, and I think, did you say travel?
I think that's what it was.
So you
I
have-
got all kinds of,
Are you looking at checks, or is that coming from checks, or is that coming from, what is that coming at that you're looking for?
You gave us 2 reports, purchase order report. I can't remember if it was on that one or on the check register.
All right.
I don't remember which
So,
one.
I want to just remind you, when you look at those reports, you have to remember, you're looking at the district as a whole,
Yeah, right.
and you're looking at the grants that we have.
Some grants.
Okay,
right.
so let's just talk about Title I, for instance.
Okay.
We receive over $7 million in Title I. It used to be mandatory that 10% of Title I dollars be spent on professional development.
Right.
So that's $700,000. Plus we have improving teacher quality. It's another grant, strictly professional development grant. I think last year we got $798,000 in that money. So that's a grant. Then every single grant that we have, there is a professional development piece in there that they have to use. And remember that when they do PD, that's the first money that they try to use, are the grant funds, so that they can expend those dollars, because it's important to use them, because if we don't use them, Ohio Department of Education will be calling me every day saying, you have this money, why haven't you used it? You know, we're not going to give you this money if you don't use it. So practically every single grant we get, whether it is federal or state, has money in there for PD. So you're going to see a lot of PD. Specifically, Ohio State University, those checks were probably from a program that we have that runs through the Ohio State University that we've had now for, I think, about 3 years, maybe longer. All of those dollars being paid through that are coming out of the Title I dollars, every last one of them.
So is that tuition?
It's a program that we send teachers to. I forget what it's for, but it's we've had it. I think it's either a reading program. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, and we don't send everyone, because some of those teachers go and those teachers learn this program and then they come back and teach the teachers. But we do send people almost every year. So. you know.
And my only comment about any and all of that, I've always had issues with us paying for professional development. However, but if we're paying these big dollars, 700,000, okay, for PD, I would expect a return on my investment, a significant return on that investment, okay? No, I'm just saying.
No, I
okay.
mean, I can't talk about your return on your investment. I can't talk about data to show you how well these programs are functioning in our district, because that is not my piece.
No, I know.
But if you ask me about the money,
Right.
I pretty much can answer most of the questions. I work with all of the grants, so I know them forwards and backwards. So I can answer those
And
questions.
of course, my issue is
Yes.
not that it's, that even with grant money, that I am looking at, again, a good solid return on our investment, on grant investment, okay? And based on that report that I saw on our academic performance, reading and math, we are not getting an adequate return on that investment. So if these teachers or whoever the heck is going on PD, they're going out, they must be partying like it's 1999, because the results aren't showing in terms of how academics are improving in our district.
Well, I can't speak to that, but one more thing I just want to address is about this pizza,
The what?
because
Pizza?
that's
I'm
another
sorry.
issue.
Okay,
The Title I grant, it is a requirement that every school, and for every school we have, they have Title I dollars.
yes,
They have to have 2 family and community functions every school year.
yes.
And at those functions, they are allowed to feed. And what do most children like? Pizza. And so that's probably what you're seeing a lot of, is money being paid from Title I for family and community, mandatory functions twice a year at every school. And then also you have to remember too, that this year, why you're seeing so much overtime.
Yeah,
This year you're seeing so much overtime because of the after-school program that was implemented by Mr. Mohitt. We didn't have that last year, so we still had overtime last year, which is sometimes can be relatively high, but we also had 21st Century Grant for those after-school programs where you saw some of that. This year, Mr. Mohitt implemented total school-wide, I believe it was, after-school program. Now, a lot of those after-school money that was for overtime did come from the general fund, because there were no grants that could take care of that. And it was sort of like at the last minute when he implemented it. So, there was not an opportunity to look for other monies maybe to help subsidize some of that. So, I mean, there are questions that if you want to know the answers to, I really do know the answers.
thank you. Ms. Tyson, thank you.
Well, the answer to pizza is Little Caesars, $5 a pizza. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, this is the business.
Okay, under new business, I wanted to talk about, it was Mr. Hunter had brought up about us with professional development and trying to get our own date set, and some of the topics to go over. Just recently, I've been in contact with the OSBA. I know they came before and they did our professional development. One of the contact persons, Terry Morgan, is willing to come down here with their legislative department to cover some topics, for example, governance, community engagement, and legislative landscape with us. And the 2 dates, I was shooting for July, but I was waiting for Mr. Mohitt. That didn't happen. So the next one that they have available, I talked to them about was August 14th and 16th. They have it where they can come for 2 days, break it up so no one has to take off from work, 5 to 8 type of sessions to do with us. And I know before, one of the issues was cost. I think the last resolution one time, it was like $15,000. They're charging only $850 for each session, mileage. In addition to that, some of us will be coming straight from work, so I was talking to Mr. Hunter about, because he usually brings up money. the cost of us having like meals, like if we went through like Panera Bread and it was under $200. So it's like
I don't want to
$25.
interrupt you, but I'm on vacation from the 12th through the 20th. August, through the 20th.
And then what OSBA said is that they wanted us to schedule out at least 3. They didn't want to do 1 or 2 or come back and do 1 every now and then. They wanted a schedule of 3 that they could put on their calendar and come out. And then I think that there might be other board members who might have other subjects that they would like discussed or trained on. So I think we need to come together on this, but that week is bad for myself as well. I won't be available.
12th through the 20th. Remember I told you last
So
week?
5 p.m. to 8 o'clock is what we're trying to do,
I
right?
wouldn't be here that week.
No, I'm just saying, that's what we want to do, 5 to 8 o'clock. I'm thinking that's best, because instead of like a weekend,
Mr.
I
Shedd,
mean,
you work, is that great?
5 to 8.
That's fine.
Okay. Anybody have any ideas, like other topics? This is what they're covering right now with their schedule for like the month of August.
Right, but it doesn't have to be our talk. Our topics that they discuss when they come. Ours can be the topics that we choose.
Like, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Do you guys have ideas of topics that you would like to discuss?
All-time favorite is parliamentary procedure.
I'll get back to you. I need to
Okay.
think about what I'd like to discuss. Because there were some we already had lined up, and honestly, I don't remember what they were. So I'd like to I'll let you know. if I'm-
Also, they would encourage for Mr. Mohib to attend, whoever the future superintendent would be to attend. Mr. Overson can also attend as well. That's suggested.
Well, they suggested that because they feel like that Mr. Bohip should be there on the lines of communication, if we're going to open communication up. I don't know that he would be willing to do that, but that would be something he would have to answer, and Mr. Overson as well, if he would plan to attend that session.
Any other questions the board would like me to get back to them with besides the dates?
So it's going to be 2 days? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Two
I suggested,
meetings?
I suggested 2 days. If you want to do a 3-day, break it into 3 days, that's just up to you guys. But I suggested 2 days. These are some topics that they were covering. I told them some issues that we were having, and they told me that it actually falls under these 3 topics. So,
Ms. Mohib's going to be there. I'd like a session on ethics.
ethics.
As a matter of fact, that was one that we had listed. Ethics, yeah.
I'll let you guys know. Thank you.
Make a motion for executive session for pending litigation.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Kimball,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Sanderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shedd,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter.
Yes.
There will be no formal action taken when we return to adjourn the meeting. We will try to keep it as short as possible because we know some of you probably have tickets today to the event, and we don't want to hinder you or have you late.
There's an event?
Yeah, at the Cavelli Center, our president is coming to town.
We should be down there.
Is he there already?
You wasn't invited?